Hello and welcome to this expression of wisdom fire. Today I will be speaking about the three souls. Let me first make a distinction between spirit and soul, because so often those terminologies are intermixed, used one in replacement of the other. Shamanically, we have an understanding, a distinction between spirit and soul. Spirit is that expression of ourselves that is pure, unsullied, unsulliable, untarnished, untarnishable, and eternal. So there really is no such thing as the healing of the spirit, because it's never broke. Spirit is that frequency which is unique to each of us as an individual. The frequency of your spirit is different than the frequency of my spirit, which is different than the frequency of someone else's. We each have our own frequency. Soul is comprised of our life force charge. Shamanically, we refer to that as power. The soul is comprised of power, of life force. Shamanically, when we refer to power, we're not referring to economic status, control and manipulation, nor are we referring to energy, such as in doing energy healing and such. I've addressed that in different wisdom fires, so I won't go into that any deeper here. Just to say that when we're speaking of the soul, we're speaking of our life force charge, and the soul is the containment of that charge. Shamanically, we recognize that we have three distinct souls. The earth soul is the one that we communicate on a day-to-day basis with. It handles cognitive functioning, pattern recognition, linear processing, short-term memory, bodily health, and in particular, the immune system. Indeed, in our understanding, the earth soul is the immune system. We also have the underworld soul, the dream soul, so named because it is the soul from which we dream. It is highly symbolic in its nature and representation. The underworld soul is where we storehouse our vitality, our charge, our power. It's rather like our bank account. The money that we're not spending on a day-to-day, but we're setting aside, is akin to our underworld soul. That's the storehouse, the bank account of our power. And that power resonates with thoughts, feelings, impressions, experiences, i.e. memory, long-term memory. The celestial soul is the high self, the inspirational self, through which we receive guidance and direction in our lives and into the world. Should the earth soul become disengaged, disconnected, and most typically it's due to trauma in a person's life, though it can also occur from loss of consciousness that arises from a blow to the head, being knocked out unconscious, anesthesia, drug blackout states, alcohol blackout states. So anywhere where there's a severe loss of consciousness, there's the possibility of the earth soul becoming disengaged. Not the absolute necessity of that, but it is the condition in which it is likely to occur. Though, most commonly for people, again, it is due to trauma. When the earth soul disengages, it retreats to a place of safety. And where it retreats to is into the underworld soul, into the dream realm. And because everything is highly symbolic in that dream realm, then when the earth soul retreats to a place of safety, symbolically, in our dream soul, that is represented as a cave. And so the earth soul retreats into the cave for safety. Most often, this occurs when a person is young, as a child. The reason for that being that as children, we are hardwired to rely upon the adults around us for our safety, our well-being, our protection, like that. So we're incapable of comprehending anything beyond that because we're hardwired in that relationship with the adults around us for safety, protection, well-being. So if an adult acts out of concert with that, let us say that an adult comes up to a child, that can be very traumatic because they don't have any way of understanding or processing that. Whereas, if somebody were to come up to you as an adult at this point in your life and go, it wouldn't be traumatic. It'd be a petty annoyance. You'd say, buddy, get out of here. Leave me alone. Go sleep it off. And that'd be the end of it. But the very same event as a child can be very threatening, very traumatic. And it's at that point that the soul disengages and carries with it those attributes of the soul that at that moment in time feel threatened. They might be our vulnerability, our innocence, our trust, any number of qualities and characteristics. So these are taken away for safekeeping. I'm not going to go into the whole realm of soul retrievals here. Again, I've done that in previous Wisdom Fires. But suffice it to say that there are indicators that are present in a person's life that can indicate the loss of the earth soul. And that is, they will oftentimes suffer from short-term memory loss because the earth soul handles short-term memory. It might be an aggravating, consistent inability to remember names. Or it might be that you're reading a book and you get down to the bottom of the page and you can't remember what the first paragraph was about. Feeling displaced, discombobulated, disoriented, disconnected, fuzzy. Sometimes feeling that this world is just a dream and that we're drifting through it. This occurs because the earth soul, underworld soul, celestial soul, when the earth soul is disengaged or disconnected, the underworld soul, the dream soul, rises up and takes position of the earth soul, that is, conscious linear processing. Because the underworld soul is highly representational and symbolic, is the nature of dream, that when the underworld soul moves up into position and takes over the functions that would normally belong to the earth soul, then we begin to perceive the world and our life from the perspective of the dream soul. Everything takes on a dreamlike quality, and life becomes highly symbolic and representational. An example would be that you're driving down the highway with a friend in the car, and a raven flies in front of you. And you go, "What's the meaning of that? What's the message of that raven for me?" And your friend might go, "What are you talking about? Ravens live all over the place here." Is that you're perceiving the event from the perspective of the dream. And so it takes on that quality of significance as it would in a dream. Or maybe that you tend to avoid crowded environs, supermarkets, movie theaters, parties, social events. Because when you go into those situations that are crowded with many people, you go into total overwhelm. You can feel, sense, even know what another person is feeling or thinking. And it just becomes too overwhelming. Well, again, the reason for that is because your underworld soul, your dream soul, has taken over the position of conscious recognition. It is at the level of the underworld soul, the dream soul, that your soul, my soul, each of our souls are connected and contribute to the collective soul of humanity. We all share a common dream, that is. And so when that soul that is connected with each and every other soul is drawn forth, we have conscious awareness of what is transpiring in the dream soul and the underworld soul of each and every other person. And it's just too much to handle. And so we tend to avoid those situations and circumstances. If, on the other hand, it is the underworld soul that disconnects, we have a whole different scenario. The underworld soul, like the earth soul, can become disconnected through trauma. The difference being is that when the underworld soul disconnects, we tend to move into a state of dissociation. We move into specifically a state of fantasy. We move into indulging in our fantasy as a form of escape from whatever the harsh realities are of the situation, the environment, the moment. And so the underworld soul, our dream soul, moves across, you might say, into that underworld dream realm. It is a place of safety because typically the light of consciousness doesn't shine into that realm. That's why one of the appellations of the underworld soul is the dark soul. Dark, not meaning bad or evil. Dark, simply meaning impenetrable by consciousness. We can't see into it. And so, the safety of the underworld soul is to disengage from the physical body, and the mind, the emotions, and move into the realm of fantasy, into the dream realm. And that can go on for an extended period of time. It may be that that underworld soul in dire straits and circumstances can be taken in by those beings who have goodwill towards lost souls. They're kind of like spiritual orphanages. They take the souls in and tend to them and care for them until such time as they are called back home to the body, or a rescue, a soul retrieval is done to bring them back home, or in the final event with the person's death, at which point the soul makes transition. There are other circumstances where the underworld soul might be captured, imprisoned, tormented by what, for lack of a better word, we might call demons, elemental aspects of the underworld realm. And they feed upon the turmoil that is generated in that person's life, brought about through their torment. Just through the capture and imprisonment of that soul, there's an agitation, a feeling of confinement, of containment, a wanting to get out, to get away, to escape, that goes on here in our body, mind, emotions. Because whatever happens to the soul is expressed through the daily life of us here in the world. So the circumstance and events of our life are a direct expression of the state and condition of our soul. So without getting into gory details of the different types of scenarios that can occur, there can be torment, addiction, abuse that is perpetrated upon a soul by these demons in the underworld. And this is expressed, brought forth as situations and scenarios of a like nature in the person's life. So that's one of the things we look for in regards of a person's underworld soul being lost, disconnected, is that they will have those kind of irresolvable disruptions, torments, difficulties in their life. And again, without going into the whole nature of soul retrieval. The celestial soul is our high self, our inspirational self, through which we receive guidance and direction in life. The celestial soul, we can't really say gets lost. Not like the earth soul and the underworld soul. That is, it doesn't disengage. Except if it does become disengaged to a degree, the person goes comatose. And so a person who's in a coma, their celestial soul is disengaged but not fully detached. Should the celestial soul fully detach, that person is dead. It is the leaving of the celestial soul that initiates the death of an individual. So, not a soul retrieval is required for the celestial soul, but more typically, it is that for most people, the celestial soul is something ephemeral, something up there, something out there. Oftentimes is referred to as a person's guiding spirit, an angel that looks after them, or whatever the mythic iconography is that a person relates to. It's that figure or force that's out there that looks over them and protects them. The actuality is it's your own soul, your own celestial soul. Shamanically, we seek our best to bring that celestial soul into embodiment, into conscious embodied expression. The celestial soul requires a direct command, a directive to take action on our part. When it receives that directive, it resonates with not the collective soul of humanity, but the universal soul of all beings, of the totality of creation. And so, if we set forth a directive, a prayer, a manifestation intent, I choose radiant, vibrant health. The celestial soul radiates that forth into the entirety of creation, causing the entirety of creation to align with that so that it becomes manifest in experience and expression in our lives. So rather than having the celestial soul be in that disjointed state of being something ephemeral and out there, we bring it on home. We seek to integrate the three souls, earth soul, underworld soul, celestial soul, into a state of dynamic equilibrium so that there's harmonic balance between the three souls. The function of the three souls is to give direction to the body and the mind, consciousness, if you will, so that we are impelled consciously to choose and live life in expression with our authentic spirit's expression. We can view this as a hinge. Here's earth soul, underworld soul, celestial soul, body, mind. They fit together like this, like a hinge. And the hinge pin is our spirit. And if all are in alignment, then the gate of our life swings smoothly and freely about the purpose, the path of our spirit's calling. If something is disjointed, out of alignment, then that gate gets kind of creaky on its hinges, and there'll be areas of our life that we have misfortune, things don't work well for us, just things aren't good in our lives. If a piece is disconnected altogether, if one of the souls is lost, then the hinge pin of our spirit can't fit through the hinge in that area of our life. And so in that area of life, we will experience dysfunction, disability, horrific fortune. Things don't work at all. But only in that area of our life, not throughout the entirety of our life. And this is why sometimes a person can just suffer terrible in terms of relationships, and yet their career and their finances are doing wonderful. Or a person's health might be horrible and disabled. You know, they can never seem to bring themselves up to full vitality and functioning. And yet their mind is sharp as an intellect, and their intuition is smooth and functioning, and the other areas of their life are fine. So it depends which area is disconnected as to the consequences that will show up in a person's life. So again, three souls, body, mind, consciousness, fit together like a hinge. The hinge pin is our spirit. Our spirit's purpose, path, truth, and calling. That is the hub, the center of all that we do in life. And that is a state of balance. Body, mind, three souls, spirit. Emotions we see as the overlay between the body and the mind. The dynamic tension between the body and the mind is what generates emotions. So we don't consider that a separate body. It is discernible as a particular band in our field. However, the emotional band is a consequence of the overlay of the body and the mind. It's not an actual thing like the body or the mind themselves are. So, proper relationship, dynamic equilibrium, harmony, balance. These are all very, very critical in maintaining a spiritual life, good mental functioning, good physical health, emotional health, well-being in general. So, recapitulating briefly, the Earth Soul handles cognitive functioning, pattern recognition, linear processing, short-term memory, and bodily health, and in particular, the immune system. The Underworld Soul is the soul from which we dream. So whatever the Underworld Soul is experiencing during the dream state is what is translated to us as our dreams. Our dreams are the awareness of the state, condition, and situations that the Underworld Soul is undergoing. It is highly symbolic and representational in nature. The Underworld Soul is also the place where we storehouse our life force charge, our power. That's kind of like a backup battery, a bank account where we storehouse our excess funds to draw upon as we need. And it is that power that resonates with thoughts, feelings, impressions, experiences, i.e. long-term memory. And then thirdly, the celestial soul, the high self, the inspirational self, through which we receive guidance and direction in our life. Maintaining the health of each of the three souls is necessary in the furtherance of our own spiritual path. So it helps to understand what each of these souls are, which is why I'm presenting as I am here today, as well as the distinction between soul and spirit, which I covered at the very beginning of this talk. So, that is the presentation of Wisdom Fire on the three souls for today. Thank you so very much for your attention. I will close out with a little bit of drumming. Thank you.